This second assassination attempt is almost unheard of. We talked to retired FBI agent Kenneth Gray this afternoon, a 24-year agent. He says it reminds him of the 60s, another turbulent time when there were several successful assassinations, from JFK to RFK to MLK. He says it's very difficult to protect a high-profile figure in public, especially outdoors, and he wouldn't be surprised to see some changes from the Trump team moving forward.
Amazon shut him down. And now Amazon doesn't pay any local taxes anywhere. The question is, do they pay any federal taxes? The answer to that is no. Last year, Amazon paid 0 federal taxes. So you're seeing they're doing this right in front of us. They're just strip mining the wealth from the American middle class, shifting it upward to this new oligarchy of billionaires. And during COVID, they do their shutdowns. They created a billionaire a day in 500 days, 500 new billionaires, and they shifted $4.3 trillion north from the American middle class, which they obliterated, to this new aristocracy that we have. And, you know, that is...
But so if that power is so, crazy. The 800 people, and it's so like, the power is so insurmountable, how do we then pass a law that doesn't let that continue on? Like, how do you make it stop?
I think you need a president who's willing to go in there and who is not part of that system. You know, and I think that's President Trump. And President Trump, I think, tried to do that the last time to drain the swamp. And he was well-intentioned, but he didn't know how to do it. And he said that to me. He said, you know, I didn't know anything about governing. And he said, we won this election, and then all of a sudden, you got to fill 60,000 jobs or something like that. And he said, I was surrounded by people, by lobbyists and business interests who were saying, you got to appoint this guy, you got to appoint that guy, and that's what he did. And, you know, he brought in Scott Gottlieb, who was a Pfizer business partner, to run the FDA. Gottlieb did a $100 billion favor for Pfizer, and then what did he do? He went back to join Pfizer's board with all the stock, you know, dividends that he got.
Shit.
So it's just a payoff. It's a, you know, a revolving door payoff. And there was, you know, they brought in a telecommunications lobbyist to run FCC. They brought in oil lobbyists, Ryan Zinke to run the Department of Interior, a coal lobbyist to run the EPA, another pharmaceutical lobbyist, Alex Azar, to run HHS. You go across the board, and all of these agencies were being run, and that's what they all do. That's what they all do. And Trump, the last time, got locked into that, and he told me, I don't want to do that again. He said those were bad guys, and this time we're going to do something different. And he doesn't. He said, you know, last time he brought John Bolton in to run NSA, and he's now understands who the neocons are and what, you know, and he's anti-war. He wants to end the wars. And he did a pretty good job this last time. There was no, you know, U.S. Combat deaths during his administration. But, you know, I think that he wants to leave a legacy. He's not going to run again. He's a lame duck president. And he wants to do something that's good for this country. And I can help him do that because I have sued all these agencies. I've sued FDA, CDC, NIH. I've sued the FCC. I just won a big case against the FCC in the Court of Appeals, lying to the American public about the dangers of cell phone radiation, and now they have to redo all of those regulations. I've sued the USDA, the Department of Agriculture, and most of the big agricultural producers. Oh, and when you sue these companies, when you sue these agencies, you get a PhD in how corporate capture works and how to unravel it. And, you know, I know how to do that, and he's asked me to help him do that. So if we do that, if he does what he says, I'm very optimistic that we can actually remedy a lot of this corruption.
Yeah.
I come to you with a message of leave-taking and farewell.
This speech did not get very much attention. When a new president is coming to power, as John Kennedy was, the spotlight was not on Dwight Eisenhower.
We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions.
There was a feeling at the time that this must have been written by some speechwriter who just sneaked into the speech.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
3 months ago, we got contacted by a family up in Minnesota saying that we have documents from Malcolm Moose. He was responsible in part for drafting the military-industrial complex speech.
These new papers give us written evidence that this was not just some caprice of Eisenhower's or something by some speechwriter.
You see the evolution of his speech from May 1959 to 1961.
And he wanted to give this speech for a long time, 2 years.
Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea.
There was one person in Dwight Eisenhower's life whom he really confided almost everything to, and that was his brother Milton.
There's one particular document where the speechwriters had already drafted their version of the speech, only to see Milton come along and totally revamp what had already been written.
When Milton Eisenhower was taking notes and writing things on the drafts of these speeches, the speechwriters knew that it wasn't Milton talking, it was Ike.
The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
He would see magazines with advertisements for some new warplane or some bomb, and he got so angry he'd take the magazine and throw it into the fireplace of the Oval Office because he felt that defense spending should not be something that would be encouraged by companies who are seeking commercial gain.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
There is an interesting document. It shows that the farewell speech would be made to Congress. But yet, President Eisenhower decided, no, he was going to address the people.
Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
One test of how well a president speaks is how long the speech lives. Here we are 50 years later, we're still talking about this speech.
Now, on Friday noon, I am to become a private citizen. I am proud to do so. I look forward to it. Thank you, and good night.